Welcome to the Global Focus Review channel. Today, we'll be exploring an interesting topic related to the Bible. As you may know, the Bible is made up of about 66 books, including the Old Testament and the New Testament. But have you ever wondered about the books mentioned within the Bible itself? In this video, we'll be discussing one such book called the Book of Jasher, which is quite controversial. I invite you to share this content with those who are interested in exploring other books mentioned in the Bible, but not officially included in it. Could the Book of Jasher be a lost book of the Bible? Recently, there has been a lot of discussion about other sacred scriptures that were not included in the official Bible. The most notable ones are the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jasher, and the Book of Jubilees. In this video, we'll focus on the Book of Jasher. This book is intriguing and interesting, and many people have heard about it through Jewish rabbis. But what exactly is the Book of Jasher? In Hebrew, it is called Sefer HaYashar, which translates to Book of the Just. It is mentioned a few times in the Bible and is considered a non-canonical or lost book of sacred scriptures. There are different interpretations of the Book of Jasher. Some suggest it refers to the Pentateuch, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. On the other hand, the traditional Latin and Greek translation identifies it as Yezer, as found in the King James Bible of 1611. According to one interpretation by Rashi, a scholar, in Joshua 10:13, the Book of Jasher is mentioned literally. It refers to Jacob's prophecy about Joshua's ancestor Ephraim, whose descendants spread among the nations. This prophecy was fulfilled when Joshua achieved victory, gaining renown among the nations who heard of his conquests. Another mention of the Book of Jasher can be found in the Book of Samuel. When David mourned the deaths of Saul and Jonathan, he taught the children of Judah about archery. It is written in the Book of Jasher, according to Samuel 1:18. The English version of the King James Bible includes the words, "the use of," in italics, which were added by the translator to make the text more understandable. In this context, David taught the Jews about archery, symbolized by the word kesset in Hebrew, which some interpret as a poetic lament for the deaths of Saul and Jonathan. This interpretation suggests that the bow was a melody contained in the Book of Jasher, which would have been taught to the Israelites. In another possible reference, in the Book of Kings 8:53, it is mentioned that Solomon's previous prayer is written in the Book of Psalms. The Hebrew version of the Book of Psalms could be called Sefer Hair, which is similar to Sefer HaYashar, but with 2 letters switched. This suggests a connection to its function as a book of songs. The Book of Jasher is considered a medieval Hebrew midrash, also known as Tot Adam and Div Hayam Hirak. The Hebrew title, Sefer HaYashar, can be translated as the Book of the Correct Record or the Book of the Just, though it is more commonly known as the Book of Jasher. Over time, there have been various attempts to imitate or insert text into the Book of Jasher itself, which raises doubts about its integrity. This is because there are other works with the same name, including some copies and questionable versions of the Book of Jasher. I will discuss this in more detail in the future. Additionally, there are other books mentioned with the same name, such as the Book of the Just mentioned in Joshua and 2 Samuel. However, the original book, as presented in translations like Moses Samuel 1840, is not officially recognized as such in Rabbinic Judaism. It's important not to confuse it with the different Book of Jasher, printed by Jacob Ilve in 1751 and translated by the English monk Alcuin. It should also not be confused with an ethical text of the same name mentioned in the Jewish Encyclopedia, which was likely written in the 13th century. The Book of Jasher covers biblical history from the creation of Adam and Eve to a summary of the initial Israelite conquest of Canaan at the beginning of the Book of Judges. The Bible mentions a Sefer Hayer twice, which is a midrashic work that includes text related to the biblical references about the sun and moon in Joshua and the teaching of the children of Judah to fight with the bow in 2 Samuel. This teaching can be found in Jasher 56:9, among the last words of Jacob to his son Judah, where he advises to teach their children the bow and weapons of war to fight the battles of their brother who will rule over their enemies. However, the Book of Jasher was actually written much later than previously believed. This is indicated in chapter 10, which contains medieval names for certain territories, locations, and countries. For example, France is referred to as Franza, and Lombardy is mentioned as Lombardy in Italy. This chapter closely follows the beginning of Japan, a 10th century rabbinic text that lists the various peoples living in Europe around 950 AD. Most of the additional accounts found in the Book of Jasher can be found in similar ways in other medieval compilations, the Talmud, and other Arabic sources. One example is the story of Lamech and his son Jabal accidentally killing Cain, their ancestor, as a repayment for Cain's wickedness in killing his brother Abel. However, this contradicts other older books of the time, such as the Book of Jubilees. When comparing the Book of Jasher with the Book of Genesis, there are 5 discrepancies. In chapter 5, the Book of Jasher reports that a son of Seth died in the 84th year of Noah's life and calls him Enoch instead of Enos. Enoch was actually the son of Jared, according to the Book of Genesis. In addition to this confusion, the dates align with Genesis. The Book of Jasher also states that Jared died in the 336th year of Noah's life instead of the 962nd year, as in Genesis, and that Lamech died in the 195th year of Noah's life instead of the 777th year. It also provides different lifespans for Lamech, 770 instead of 777, and Methuselah, 960 instead of 969, compared to the Bible itself. These discrepancies can confuse readers who are familiar with the Book of Genesis. Furthermore, in the genealogy of Abraham, the Book of Jasher does not mention Canaan between Arphaxad and Shelah, which agrees with the Masoretic text and the Samaritan Pentateuch, but conflicts with the Septuagint, LXX, and Jesus' genealogy in Luke 3. In terms of places, people, and ages, the Book of Jubilees is much more faithful to the Bible and other books of the Bible than the Book of Jasher. In my opinion, the Book of Jasher's credibility is questionable due to these various reasons and confusions it presents. In addition to these inconsistencies, another passage from the Book of Jasher directly contradicts the biblical text. In chapter 23, it is written that Isaac asked his father Abraham about the lamb for the burnt offering, but in the biblical account, Abraham's response was different. This conflict shows the contradiction between the Book of Jasher and the Book of Genesis. Among other things, the Book of Jasher also includes anecdotal information about Moses, stating that he fled to the land of Cush after killing an Egyptian and escaping from the Pharaoh. However, we know that Moses actually fled to the land of Midian, not Cush. The Book of Jasher states that Moses became the king of Cush at the age of 18, reigned for 40 years, and was deposed at the age of 67. According to this narrative, Moses helped the indigenous people of Cush conquer a rebellious city whose owner was believed to be the sorcerer Balaam. The city had been besieged for 9 years due to a snake infestation. Moses devised a strategy to take the city without being harmed by the snakes by bringing caged birds that fed on them. The book also mentions that Moses married a widow named Adanya, who was the wife of the king called Konos. These additional stories and discrepancies with the original text of the Book of Genesis raise significant concerns about the credibility of the Book of Jasher. The differences between the texts of the Book of Jasher and the Bible are noticeable and have led to debates among Jews and rabbis. By carefully examining the book and analyzing it line by line, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse, one can identify several contradictions with the biblical texts. This video aims to discuss the Book of Jasher and question whether it is truly one of the missing books from the sacred scriptures. The authenticity of the Book of Jasher remains a mystery, as it could be a medieval copy inserted to appear as a book mentioned in the Bible but not actually part of it. Feel free to share your own opinions on the subject in the comments. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you. See you soon.